Welcome back to another episode of the Councilmen Show. Welcome back, everyone. My name is Albert Wiradharma, and I'll be your sort of host for today. If you are a returning listener, welcome back. Thank you for listening, and thank you for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, go subscribe. It's that easy, so you don't miss out on our future episodes. If you're a new listener, welcome to the show. And sadly, if you're a new listener, this is not the usual content that we provided. This is going to be somewhat an unorthodox show, and that is because, like I said early on, I'm Albert Wiradharma, and you probably don't hear where's Kelvin, where's Ariq, where's Teguh. Usually they directly chime in, but no, they're not here today. And I'll address why this show is different, why they're not here. I'll get into some nitty-gritty personal stuff. I don't know if you guys care, but I feel like maybe some of you does care. What's with our personal life? What are we like outside of just talking movies? What's going on in our life? Maybe you guys care, maybe you don't, but I might as well address it. But if you are looking forward to the show, stick around, because after I do all this rant talking about what's going on with the councilmen, what's the future of the councilmen, you'll get a very in-depth talk for Spider-Man Far From Home. Spoiler review, spoiler heavy. So I'll give a spoiler warning eventually, but as of now, I'll just say that Spider-Man Far From Home. What's that? It's second weekend out, and it makes a lot of money in the box office. Of course, in America itself, thanks to 4th of July weekend, it makes a boatload of money, and worldwide, I'm pretty sure it's making a lot of money as well, and it's one of the highest grossing of the world so far. But yeah, it's a good film. We'll get into spoiler review. I managed to get a chance to talk with it with one of my good friends, Andrew Just. He's a good friend of mine. He's a movie lover. He went to South by Southwest, which, if you're a movie fan, you know that's a film festival. I believe in. I want to say, I don't know why I want to say Nebraska. That's not right. I'm gonna check that out right now. Where is South by Southwest? But it is a film festival, and he did went there, so he proves to you that he's a huge movie fan. And yeah, he loves Spider-Man, and he loves the character. I believe he loves the movie. You gotta have to find out. Stick around if you want to find out what we fully think of it. But yeah, it's going to be spoiler heavy. Andrew Just right there. He's a good friend of mine. And South by Southwest. Let's check it out right here. South by Southwest Film Festival. And yeah, it is apparently, of course, it's in the US. My internet's working very slow right here. It is in Austin, Texas. Isn't Austin, Texas? Wow, it's in Austin, Texas. I didn't know. I was way off. I say Nebraska. But anyway, yeah, so that is all those stuff that you'll get to hear eventually around the 15-minute mark, I would say, or maybe less than that. So yeah, but if you just want to skip ahead, go ahead, skip ahead. If you want to listen why I'm doing this right now, why I'm ranting for 15 minutes or so, feel free to listen. But yeah, so yeah, guys, before I get to everything, if you guys want to get a shout out in the show, all you have to do is leave a review for us on iTunes, on I don't know, you can do it on Spotify, on Castbox, wherever you're listening to it. We are in multiple platforms, so go give us a review and we will shout it out in the show. Doesn't matter if you want to talk bad about us, but if you do it on iTunes, you better give it a 5-star. Give it a 5-star, talk shit about us, I'm good. We'll read it on a review right here. But yeah, follow us on social media at Councilmen Show on Twitter and Instagram. That's where we give updates and everything. You don't want to miss out on all of those. But yeah, let's talk about why I'm doing here, why I'm on my own for today. And as you might know or you don't, I'm 20 years old. I'm an Indonesian citizen, but I study in Purdue in the US, and I've been I'm not a film major. However, I love film and I love movies. And why me, Kelvin, Teguh, and Ariq decided to do this podcast is because we already talk movies all the time. We love movies, all of us. We have different tastes. And as you might, if you ever listen to the one-on-one with Kelvin, he got some weird taste. Teguh definitely love war movies. Ariq loves action movies. I am much of a comic book nerd, as much as a rom-com fan and an animated fan. So we got different tastes, and we just love movies. We talk about them, and you know what? We already do it every day. Why don't we just record it on a podcast platform and share it with other people? Maybe they have the same interest. We got to make friends over it. You have listened. Kenneth Luciano was a guest of the show once. Jason Wiradharma, which is a cousin of mine, he was a guest of the show once when we talked Game of Thrones. And Andrew Just in the upcoming episode, in this episode, is going to be a guest of the show. So we are making lots of friends. So we really enjoy doing this podcast. It's been a lot of fun. And yes, scheduling has been tough because, like I said, I study in the US. However, right now I'm back home in Indonesia. So that's one reasoning why sort of scheduling conflict. I'm sort of busy like taking care of stuff back here at home, trying to relax as well for the summer. Ariq, he is in Indonesia. He's also a university student. We're all the same age, by the way. We all know each other from high school. And Ariq is in Indonesia right now. So actually, weirdly enough, ever since I came back here, it's been it's several days in. I haven't met Ariq yet, so hopefully I'm able to meet you. I don't know, how funny would it be if Ariq is listening to this right now and we still haven't met in person, and then I addressed him like, oh, I haven't met Ariq in person, and Ariq listening to this. So Ariq, if you're listening to this, hello. We better meet in person pretty soon. And yeah, Kelvin and Teguh, they're all both Indonesians. Everyone's Indonesians in here. So Ariq and Teguh, they're studying in Japan. So yeah, scheduling conflict, time difference, that's the hardest part. Now that we're all in Asia though, it's sort of easier to adjust with the time difference and try to make a schedule. When I was in the US, I was in a whole other realm in terms of time difference. It was like a 12 hours time difference, 10 hours, something like that. And we always have to try to adjust to find time, which is the hardest part, honestly, in doing this, because as much as we love it, it's a lot of work. Podcasting is a lot of work, and one of the hardest part is the pre-production out of this. The post-production is pretty fine. I handle all the post-production on my own. I'm not trying to take credit or anything, but yeah, it's not too difficult. The pre-production, that's the hardest part, because we have to schedule, like I said, we have to plan what topic we have in mind. We gotta prep the show and everything. Sometimes we need to prep, sometimes we don't. But yeah, it's just the, I guess, the challenge of doing a podcast. Even though how fun it can be, there's still challenge in everything. Like as much fun as you can play a video game, there are challenges in playing video game. In terms of video game itself, or you need to get the video game first in the first place, which is sort of like a pre-production challenge. So yeah, that's how did I get into video games. We're talking about timetables. We're talking about scheduling. So yeah, Ariq, his semester is over for his current semester, I believe, and yeah, he's sort of on his break. We just aren't able to find time right now, me and Ariq, even though we're both in Indonesia, like I said. Kelvin has been busy. He's got some kind of Indonesian festival in Japan in his university. He's been involved in a lot of stuff. So he's told me he's been busy with that. Teguh as well. He's been in a lot of competitions, debate, and all those kind of stuff. He's been dealing with work stuff as well. So yeah, we've been trying to find schedule, which is why Teguh hasn't been in the last 3 or 4 episodes or so. We'll try to get him back as soon as possible. We miss you, Teguh, if you're listening. We want you back as soon as possible. Hopefully you're able to find time. But yeah, that is why we don't have an episode really for today. But once again, I was able to find time to do a spoiler review, and we just decided, you know what, let's just put it for the podcast. You guys will probably enjoy it, right? So hopefully you do. But yeah, we'll be back next week, a regular format, and hopefully the new listeners who's listening to me ranting today, you guys don't get turned off by all this, and you get to see the actual show in its all-enforcing glory and chaos and all kinds of stuff ensues. A lot of weird stuff happened during the show. It's if you're looking for a regular movie show, like we talk news, in-depth discussion, analysis, we do that, but that's not our main motto. We're just here having fun. If it goes off the rails, that's what we do. That's what we do. That's the show, and we're not gonna change that. That's how we're gonna stick to it. That's how we're formed. Let's, you know what? I don't know if you guys care, but how we initially get into this movie kind of area is because not only just we love movies, we started off loving. Our fandom sort of started with MCU, the Marvel Comics, the Marvel Cinematic Universe from Marvel Comics, and we're just huge fans of it, and that's how we sort of we don't really bond through that. We bond through other films, but that's sort of one of the things that Bond does the most. And funny story, if you guys familiar with Screen Junkies? If you do, you know movie fights, and I'm a huge fan of movie fights of Screen Junkies. And on high school, I don't know if they were happy about it, but I believe I forced them to do movie fights for us on lunchtime, on lunch break. I'm like, all right, Kelvin, Teguh, Ariq, what is the best movie of 2016? Go, because we started our like movie fanatic in 2016, and we're like, what is the best movie of 2016? Go. And they just started debating, and it was fun at first, and I was like, I guess I'm forcing them too much, and they started to get bored. But I'm like, god damn it, Albert, please stop, you're such a douche. I'm like, I'm sorry, okay, I just relax a bit. But yeah, it was a lot of fun back then, and that's how it all started. We started as a sort of like a movie debate kind of thing, and we do movie trivia following the movie trivia showdown. That's where we do like, we quiz each other on stuff, and it was a lot of fun. And then we have like this niche group of people who love movies, and I'm gonna shout them out. We used to be called the Movie Brawl, and the reason why we're called the Movie Brawl is because when we're doing movie fights, I was debating. Ariq was the judge. Ariq was the judge/host, and I started arguing against the host because the host kept on cutting me off, and I'm like, God damn it, Ariq, let me speak. And then so Ariq's like, wow, Albert, this is no longer a movie fight. This is a full-out brawl. This is a movie brawl, and that's why we got the name of Movie Brawl. It's kind of stupid, but it stuck around for quite some time. And yeah, we had a niche group of friends who love movies. I'm going to shout you out right now. Mirza, he was one of the other, outside of our 4 founding members, Mirza was right there. And we also got Putri, we also got Stefan, we got Stanley, Alita, we also got Anindya, and I'm missing someone. Man, this is gonna suck. We got 10 members, I believe. Oh my god, I feel bad for myself. Okay, who have I got? Kelvin, me, Teguh, Ariq, that's 4. We got Putri, we got Anindya, we got Elita, that's 7. We got Stefan. Oh, I haven't said Stefan. Stefan's right there. Stanley and Mirza. Okay, we got 10. We got that. Those are the sort of niche group, and we did try to expand, but guess what? We all graduated, so we sort of part ways. We still talk to each other though. We still talk movies. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, the founding members, all 4 of us, we were like, yeah, we started this thing. We have a social media group which we do movie reviews. We did it on Instagram. We did movie reviews. We upload movie news, and we sort of got a cult following in high school where people know us as the movie people, and they follow the social media account, and they're like, oh, they keep track of movie news, movie reviews based on us. And it was kind of fun. It was kind of entertaining. I didn't expect people to actually listen to us, and it was kind of good. And you know what? After since then, we didn't talk much for almost a whole year. And it was until Avengers Infinity War dropped, and we're like, I gotta talk to you guys about this. We haven't talked movies in quite some time. Yes, we do, but not in depth. And I missed it. And I gotta call you guys. I want to talk to you guys about all Infinity War. They all have seen it, and we just, except for Teguh, which is why it's only 3 of us, me, Kelvin, and Ariq in the inaugural episode. And we're like, I gotta talk to you guys. We gotta do a call. And like, as soon as I did the call, I'm like, hey, you know what? I have a YouTube channel. Why don't we just live stream our conversation? Let's see if anyone is interested. And we did that. We live streamed our conversation, and boom, it started off. It became a podcast. Our first episode, I didn't plan to make it to a podcast. We're just doing a spoiler review, just the 3 of us, and then we're like, you know what? Let's just make a podcast. I think this kind of work, and it's a lot of fun. Started from just YouTube podcast, video podcast. Now we're on audio thanks to Anchor, and we're all in every platform, and we got some listenership, and I'm happy about it. I'm surprised people actually listen to us, and I'm happy. And it's been great. It's been off and rolling. And guess what? Today, this episode is the 25th episode. We are a quarter way into 100. And yes, it has taken some time. If you listen just now, Infinity War, and you're like, wait, that's like 2 years ago. Wait, is it a year ago? It's a year ago, and you're only in 25 episodes. And yes, that is because our when we started, we just do it like, let's just do a podcast for fun. We don't want to schedule it. Let's just do it a wheneverly basis. Whenever we're available, we'll shoot it, and then it grows to a monthly basis. Or like, all right, every month we need an episode. On July? What's our episode? On August, what's our episode? On September, what's our episode? And eventually it grows to a bi-weekly kind of thing. Wait, is bi-weekly? What's every other week? Is that bi-weekly? Is bi-weekly every other week or twice in 1 week? Anyway, we do it every other week. I'm gonna say bi-weekly. Correct me if I'm wrong. But we did it every other week, and then it started off slow, and then we eventually pick up the pace and like, you know what? Let's just do it every week. This is fun. We can do it. We're getting listenership. We're growing, guys. Let's go. Get social media account. Yeah, promote and everything. And yeah, it's been over and running from there. And now we're 25 episodes in. Wow. I don't know if we're ever gonna reach 100. I hope we do. That's going to be a huge milestone. And it's been great. I've been talking for 15 minutes. Wow. And yeah, I'm not gonna waste any more of your time. So hopefully you guys enjoy this rant. If you guys like this kind of stuff and want to hear more behind the scenes stuff, let me know, because I'm willing to do so. And if we can do behind the scenes stuff with me and Ariq and Kelvin and Teguh, that will be a lot of fun too. So you guys know us more outside of just talking movies. And yeah, it's once again, if you're new, hopefully you guys like it. Hopefully you guys enjoy this. And stick around for next episode. Subscribe so you don't miss out on the episode, so it automatically downloads for you. And you guys get to listen to what our regular show is. And if you're returning, hopefully you guys bear my voice for 15 minutes. And if you want to listen to the spoiler review, go ahead right here. But if you just want to, thank you guys if you just download this and listen to this and just want to listen for the next episode 26, where everyone's all back, feel free. I appreciate all you guys and all your love and support for this podcast. And yeah, without any further ado, here is, right after the sponsors, here is me and Andrew Joss in a spoiler-heavy review for Spider-Man Far From Home. Hello everyone, welcome back to another Jaw Movies movie review, and this is going to be a very special spoiler review for Spider-Man Far From Home. And I'm not alone today. I am joined by Andrew Just. He claimed to be the real champion for Real Genius, and if you don't know what Real Genius is, that is a movie trivia league that we hold here in Purdue in our campus. And I'll just let Andrew speak for himself right now. Hi, Andrew. How are you doing?
Yeah, hey there. I'm doing good, man. Just the real trivia champion here to talk about some Spider-Man. The real MCU fan, the real whatever you want to say. I'm just better than Matt is the point that I'd like to get across.
I'll vouch for you in that regard. And yes,
dope.
We're going to talk about Spider-Man Far From Home, and I'm glad I'm doing this spoiler review. Especially, I want to be able to talk to it with someone else, because I know I can do it on my own, but it's not as fun as having a conversation with other person. I want to know what people think of the film as well.
Oh, absolutely, man. I walked out of it with my brother, and we were both just like internally screaming and doing everything we could to hold back as we walked through the lobby because we didn't want to spoil it for anybody else. And then we got to the car, and we both just like, okay, then if Fury's not on Earth, then that means that there's definitely like some Skrull colony, and maybe it's going to lead to like a good secret invasion. And like, there's just like, you got to talk to people to get some of this energy out.
And yeah, there you go. The first spoiler has already been dropped, but once again, spoiler warning. Don't watch this video if you have not seen the Far From Home movie, unless if you want to get spoiled for some reason. But yeah, there you go. Do you want to go from reverse from the post-credit scene all the way to the front, or how do you want to do
it? No, it's okay. I can wait. Okay. If we're starting at the beginning, I loved that they start. I think they started it super well, like with the whole like the in memoriam from the school.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I think that was super clever because it's like we're coming in after Endgame. That movie's so heavy, man. So basically, they set that tone so well at the beginning. They're like, all right, we're gonna like mess around in this movie. It's gonna be funny. I think that was super clever.
Yeah. They use the Getty images and like the very badly edited video for in memoriam of all the heroes using a Whitney Houston song.
And and right in that video as well, they not only it was just for joke, but they also explain about what we the fans call it the snap, but they call it the blip.
Yeah,
Maybe
the
they don't know
blip.
that it was a snap. And they explain how all their friends just appear once again, and they explain how some of them, they 5 years apart, they still age the same, but some of them have grown up. Like that one, I forget his name, the Asian kid, the one that
The sly little, Brad. The introduction of Brad, I think. Yeah. Yeah, that was sly. That little clever little, like, look at this dude who's grown up, and then he becomes like the main rival in terms of like the love, like the romantic relationships in the film.
Yeah, they're sort of like a love triangle kind of thing, like with for MJ. And like you said, they went into the film. There are no time wasted at all, because they directly addressed the events of it. They directly addressed the effects of it, of the snap. They directly have the part where Spider-Man, after he got interviewed with the people, the paparazzi is like asking, "Oh, everything," and then they deal with the repercussions of Tony Stark's death. So they literally waste no time, which I thought was like, oh, okay, that's a pretty good start.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I skipped the real introduction, which is Mysterio, too. They jumped right into Mysterio, like having him meet with Fury and Hill. Like, it's just, they throw everything at you right away, and then they're like, all right, let's develop the story a bit more, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. I love that that little scene. It kind of introduces, like, the thesis in which it's like, it's Spider-Man just not answering Nick Fury, because, like, kind of why this film is like so good for a Spider-Man film is in the comics he's always like resisting the fact that it kind of sucks that he has to do some of this stuff and it's interfering with the normal life that he wants to live. And they're doing that so well in these movies. It's like the great power comes great responsibility, but he doesn't want to shoulder that responsibility. And they show that right at the beginning because he's talking to Happy and he's like, "Nah, man, I just want to go on vacation and like tell this girl that I like her and all that sort of stuff." I loved it.
And that is like what you said, that is exactly the same thing that I said in my non-spoiler review, as well as like to say without spoiling it. It's like I feel like this film, at least for me, is the first time where I see the how difficult it is for Peter to balance his regular life and his superhero life. And just the burden of being that, not only he's no longer a friend neighborhood Spider-Man, he have to elevate now being like an Avenger, and at the same time his teenage life in high school and dealing with all his friends and wanting to get close to MJ is just getting even tougher. And it's just both those worlds colliding and how Peter is in the center of it and how they handle it. I feel like this is the first time in a Spider-Man movie that I felt that weight.
I think they handled that fantastically. Like when I was watching the film, some of the editing, it felt like very rushed. And I like some of the it was just very skippy, like when he pulls him away from his hotel room and then like they're in that area and then he cuts right away, and like I was kind of getting thrown for a loop with it for a little bit. I was like, man, this movie's going really fast. But I mean, sometimes that could be a fault, or it could honestly just be like it's kind of how Peter's experiencing these events as well. Like he's just getting thrown from event to event and moving so quickly that he doesn't always handle it so well.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say I feel like the first half of the film, the pacing at least, it's not as good. The second half, that's where it gets really, really good. The film, the first half, I feel like
absolutely
okay. And just to address, do you watch the trailers for this film?
Yeah, I watched the first one. I always avoid like TV spots and stuff, so I think I just saw the first one.
Just to address it real quick, there is a clip in the trailer where he's fighting some mob boss or something, and they cut it throughout in the film at all. And I thought that was quite okay, because that might have slowed down the pacing of the film even more in the first half of the film, at least.
Yeah. Oh, I think I know the scene you're talking about. Yeah, because and he's still in the Iron Spider suit, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And the whole thing of him getting the passport and everything as well is also getting cut.
Right.
It's like unnecessary stuff.
They just want to get him out of New York, I guess, which kind of makes sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so we talk about Peter Parker. Let's talk about some of his friends in this one. What are your thoughts on MJ? Because I was okay with Zendaya's performance in the first film, because we didn't get to see a lot from MJ in the first film.
Right. Yeah, she was way more of a background character, I would say.
Yeah, but this one, you really fleshed out her character. Her performance is really good as well, and you really understand where she's coming from. And that awkwardness between those two, I really adored that.
Yeah, it threw me off at first. Like, at first I was like, I thought it was a bad performance. I was like, my girl Zendaya is like kind of throwing me off here. And then what it came down to for me was I was just like, I recognized, I'm like, oh, this is a teen movie, and I'm not recognizing it as that, you know? Like, this is still inspired by John Hughes films. I'm not just, like, this, I shouldn't be evaluating this, like, I shouldn't be trying to see these characters like I see the characters in Iron Man, you know? Like, I was expecting more of them, and like, oh, they're movie characters, but they're high school kids. And I think they nailed the awkwardness of, like, trying to tell a girl that you like her for the first time and like having those weird experiences. I thought it was beautiful. It was so good. I was cringing in my seat too because I was like, I've like had this experience before. I wasn't a superhero, but like, you know, trying to be honest with a person when you're too scared.
Yeah, and it comes from both ends too. Peter being afraid, and you can tell me MJ is also sort of afraid to tell Peter how she really feels.
Yeah. Definitely.
And on the other side, Nat Leeds and Betty Brant, played by Angourie Rice and Jacob Batalon.
That was so good.
That's also very sort of teenage, not really a romp, but I'm pretty sure there are some high school kids out there that went on a trip and they start dating, and after that they did this fling thing, like they went like, oh babe, what's up, and everything. Oh, that was just a face, everything like that. So it's so funny and it's so well done between those.
I can name like 2 or 3 friends in my life that have had that relationship. And my friend is very much the same way, where anytime he like started to like a girl, they would just immediately like start dating and fall in love. So I'm like, dude, I'm Peter Parker because my best friend goes into codependent relationships very quickly, and I'm in love with Zendaya. So it's like I basically am Peter Parker, man.
Yeah. And if I'm just gonna say a minor criticism, despite how much I like Nat Leeds in this film and I enjoy his, not only him being the friend of Peter and I am dating Betty, but minor criticism, he did more in the first film, and I wish I could see more from Ned in this film.
Yeah,
very minor.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. I think he fit. I think basically his like less involvement basically just came as a consequence of the fact that they wanted to focus more on MJ, and so he got like knocked down a peg or two. And I was kind of fine with it. Like I thought it was also pretty realistic to like being in high school and your friend gets into a relationship, and so he's not around as much. Like he's not able to do as much.
And he even addressed it when in the hotel. And
Ned's still a great friend, a good FOS friend of Spider-Man.
Friend of Spider-Man. Yeah. And of course, Flash Thompson is back. It's always funny to see him.
Tony Revolori is so good in that role. He's so like that. I love Spider-Man. He inspires me to be a better person. Oh hey, what's up, dickwad? Like he pulls that line off so well.
Mm-hmm. And he's always like the vlogging as well at the time, very millennial.
Flash mob. Yeah.
And in the trip we also get to see Martin Starr as a teacher, and I thought everything he did in the trip was so hilarious. I love so much when the camera joke when he's taking a picture and then like it fell down. I laughed so hard. I feel bad for him, but
yeah, you can tell the whole time that it's about happening too. Martin Starr's so good, and I'm so happy that we got more of him in this movie. And like so much more too. And JB Smoove was great too, I think.
Yeah, and my favorite joke from Martin Starr is when he talked about that his wife pretend to fake blip. I was like, oh my god. That is so sad.
At a fake funeral. Oh my god. It's so good. Because they're like exploring, like Endgame, they're exploring the consequences in such a serious way. And then in this movie they go into it and they're just like joking about it, and they have all these ridiculous situations and stuff. It's so good. They handled the universe really well, I think.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, this all we've been talking about are very personal stories, personal relationships between the characters.
Yeah.
But what the film managed to do as well is like it's not only personal growth in the characters, but it also feels like a massive event that expanded the universe in a way. And the balance of those two is very well done by John Watts. Yeah,
I think that's like. Okay, so when I went into this movie, I kind of like the idea of. I like it. I don't love that every Marvel movie is like a world-ending catastrophe, and so I went into this being like, I kind of wish it was still like a lower scale sort of thing. But I think they pulled it off really well because like I didn't really want it to be a world-ending disaster, and it technically wasn't going to be. They were just going to like mess up a city, but like the way that they established the stakes and the way that it was more of a personal journey than anything. Even though it's like this, they're traveling across Europe. It's like almost like a road trip movie. Like
It's sort of refreshing.
Each destination, yeah.
Yeah, the first time we've seen a Spider-Man film outside of New York, and yeah,
yes.
Let's talk about
no glamour shots for American flags in this movie.
That's
like
true,
there are in
true.
every other Spider-Man movie. And the final scene, when he was back in New York, my brother and I were like, dude, is there gonna be an American flag? And literally the final shot of the film, there's like one off in the corner. I was like, yeah, baby! Because my brother and I made a bet about whether there would be one in the film. It was good.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, let's talk about the villain. We haven't even touched about Jake Gyllenhaal's Mysterio. You got thoughts?
It's so good. Dude, Jake Gyllenhaal killed it. I mean, Marvel, the MCU, I would say maybe the strongest thing that they have is their casting, and they nailed it again, I think.
Yeah.
I forget the woman's name who casts
Sarah Haley Finn.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, she's incredible. And if she was on this casting, I guess I assumed she was. I mean, he killed it, man. Like this. Like the first comic that I ever owned, I got 2 comics for my first ever, and one was a Spider-Man and Mysterio comic, and there was like a little like nightmare segment at the end, and the other was like Ultimate Fantastic Four. This is like that's what Mysterio's always been my favorite villain of Spider-Man's because of that, like the way they portray him as like this like troubled like dramatic actor, like they portray him much more as the actor than the stunt coordinator in this, I guess. Like. They have a bit more of it later in the film, but Gyllenhaal takes it, and it could have been like such a cheesy, like not well executed character, but given it to the right actor, which in this case would be Gyllenhaal, he delivered beyond what I totally expected at all. Like I was honestly kind of nervous for Gyllenhaal to be in the MCU because I like him, but I don't know, like. I didn't think he would fit that well into like this franchise, and I think he was probably the biggest highlight of it for me.
Yeah, he was definitely one of the biggest highlights in the film for me, and I barely touched him in my non-spoiler review because I cannot at all. I don't know how to describe him in the film without spoiling it. So there are 2 things that I'm gonna talk about. What Gyllenhaal's portrayal of Mysterio. First of all, it's just the portrayal of the powers, and second of all, is the portrayals of his like. Character and his background, and I'll go with the background first. And we all know he is if you know the comics, is a special effects artist, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so I sort of know that going in, and I know it's a villain, but I don't exactly know how they're gonna reveal the twist of him being the villain that way. I have 2 concepts going in. The first one is if he's really a superhero from his alternate dimension that he claims to be, and he's like, oh, I have to sacrifice in order to save my world. I have to sacrifice your world, something like that. But the other one I thought was if you watch Incredibles, right? Syndrome, basically portraying to be a hero and it's actually the villain, and we got more of the syndrome aspects of it in this film.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and like I thought it was interesting because like in the Miles Morales run, Mysterio is one of the villains who actually does do dimension hopping, and that's how Miles gets to interact with Peter Parker a bit more. So I wasn't sure like which direction they were going to take it because I was like, this could be dimension hopping, but I love that they stuck to the roots of it, where he's just like a stunt coordinator who wants to be famous and he wants to like take charge, and then they just applied it to the MCU, like, oh. I don't like the way that the heroes are overly praised, and so I'm going to step in and take a shot at it myself.
He's not even really a stunt coordinator. See, he works for the Stark Industries. He created what Tony Stark claimed as Barf.
Sorry, yeah, I think that's more of the comics.
Yeah, the stunt coordinator is more of the comics, I believe.
Right. Yeah. So like he created Barf. Yeah. and I mean that's what happens is you flesh out the universe a bit more with that.
That's a smart thing too that they use. We didn't even think of that. We know he's special effects, but never even thought that it could be tying into the thing that Tony Stark did in Civil War. And also one of his assistants that's from the first Iron Man film when Obadiah Stane was yelling at him about Tony Stark managed to do this in a cave. So it's like they tie in the whole thing, and we didn't even thought about it. Same way as how the Vulture, he got his gear from the
damage control sort of thing. Yeah, the Chitauri. Yeah.
Just so smart.
They love tying Peter to Tony in the MCU. And I don't know if I love that or not, but I think they do it well, regardless of whether I think I think it removes a little bit of the individualism from him, but it adds a more dynamic element that's really interesting.
And that's what I sort of like from this version of Spider-Man in the MCU, because it's refreshing. We never really seen this version of him, even in the comics, at least based on my knowledge, I have never seen this part where he's really connected to Tony Stark and how it interweaves as well as with Happy Hogan and with the Stark Tech and everything, and even the villains in this one ties back to Tony Stark. And I thought it was really refreshing and interesting take on this incarnation of Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's I think there's like I remember when I read Civil War, there's something like there's something similar, but it's definitely never to this level where he's so involved. And like as somebody who's like, so I've like lost a mentor in my life, and so seeing a movie like this, I like cried at random scenes because it's like he's going through this change, huh? Yeah, it was weird, man. Okay. Yeah, well, because I think they do a really interesting job of like showing how he's trying to become a person, like he's trying to become his own person while also like he was formed by Tony Stark, and Tony Stark is gone now, so how is he going to do that without him? I think they executed on that really well. Like, so the scene where he builds his own suit and he's playing with the holograms, I don't cry that easily, but during that scene I started to tear up. I was like, oh god, like this is like really beautiful.
And that scene as well that you're referring to, the conversation with him and Happy, that's really a powerful scene, because Happy's like, yeah, Tony Stark, he's a mess. You will never be Tony Stark. He's a mess, and just never live up to it. But it's like also the fact that he played the Back in Black music back. That's so good. That's so good.
The Led Zeppelin line, I think, got the biggest laugh in the theater for us when he said, "I love Led Zeppelin." Oh, it was so good, man.
Also, before I forget, there is one joke in the film that makes me, I don't know why I laugh so hard, my stomach hurts during the scene, and it involves Happy Hogan, and that's when he was trying to throw the shield or whatever to the drone, and it failed so badly. I don't know why I laugh. My stomach hurts after that scene. I don't know why I laugh so hard. I probably shouldn't be laughing as hard.
It just like flops to the ground.
How the cat does it? But yeah, back to Mysterio. The special effects that he did. It's that scene in particular when he is when he's pretending. How do I? Which one? Before Spider-Man got hit by the train. That whole sequence. Yeah. Of everything that was incredible. That was literally Ditko. That was literally very Kirby-esque kind of scene that portrays from the comic back to the
god, yeah,
that was incredible.
Yes, absolutely. It's trippy, man. Like that was like it was like the Spider-Man version of the Doctor Strange scene. Like when the Spider-Man are piling on top of each other. I loved that. Like because it's just like this. It's like emotionally and visually just overwhelming for Peter, and so he gets destroyed. That was great. And then like even like the fake out where like Fury shoots Mysterio in the back. Even then, I like having just been through that scene, I was like, oh god, like this is just Mysterio pulling his tricks, and I think they pulled that off brilliantly because. I think the clever part of it is that Mysterio didn't just try to do like a quick trick. He like made this entire plot to make Spider-Man uncomfortable and scared and terrified, and then he gave him a sense of relief in order to get the information that he wanted out of him. Yeah, exactly.
And he tried to pull the same trick at the very end, or pretending that he's died, and when he's dead on the floor, turns out it's him trying to shoot Spider-Man, but then Spider-Man, of course, with this Peter Tingles finish. So yeah, and yeah, that scene was incredible, and when they first reveal after giving, God damn it, I forget the name of the glasses again. What's the name of the glasses? I just from a couple hours ago. My God.
Wait, the dude who like coordinates the animation and stuff.
Tony Stark glasses that he got the name from.
Oh, Edith.
There you go. I watched this a couple of hours ago. My God. But yeah, when he gives the Edith to Mysterio, and then they reveal that Mysterio's a villain all along when he's partying with everyone else. That scene is literally an exposition scene, but it works so well. So
the exposition's really heavy.
in part, that scene very, very heavy exposition, but it works so well. Yeah. You're like celebrating and stuff.
Yeah, I saw once that scene started. I'm always the one, like I always have to try to be like less picky. Because my brother's a huge Marvel fan, I'm more of a DC fan, and so I'm always trying to be less picky so I don't piss my brother off. And so I'm just sitting there like, oh, this is heavy on exposition. And my brother just turns to me and he's like, exposition, huh? And I'm like, okay. So like other people are seeing this. But yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Sometimes you need to do that. You just need to dump it all out. I mean,
yeah, but
I guess it could be argued that a screenwriter could spread it out more evenly, but I don't mind it that much. I'd rather you be blatant and just drop it out than try to like act like you're clever. Right. You know, like just do poor exposition. Yeah.
I mean, at least for me, that's like the only blatant exposition scene which I can tell from the film. I feel like everything else quite flow pretty well. And back to Mysterio, one thing that I really like is that, you know how in big budget film like this, you see, especially in CGI stuff, you see the actors, real life actors, they wear like the mocap suits and everything, and you see Jake Gyllenhaal literally wearing a mocap suit in the trying to animate Mysterio, and that's so great. I mean, it's like how they use special effects, literally like a film industry kind of thing. So that's brilliant.
Absolutely, and he's directing the scene. He's like, let's do a little bit more destruction. And like, and after that, I'm gonna need you to come in with the quick suit and stuff like that. And I thought that was brilliant.
And that's a smart thing too, that they use the drones for the damage. Because if it's like when I first see it, like, oh, it's just illusion, it doesn't really. How do they actually make damage and everything? But instead, they use the drones to actually create the damage and destruction. That's really smart. Yeah,
I thought that they handled it better than I could have possibly expected, honestly. Like, I was really worried about how they would handle him, especially because he's known. Like, I think anybody who's a fan of the comics was like, oh, Mysterio is a villain who acts like a hero by illusions. So I was like, this could be a really boring reveal. But I thought they pulled it off in a way that I was like, I saw it coming, but I was still super happy with it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That was one of my favorite aspects. I think that's what makes Mysterio like such a definitive, like, incredible villain. I would say he's one of my top villains. I mean, I just saw the movie, so I'm like in a hype beast mode right now, but like,
I mean, I would say both Spider-Man villains in the MCU have been exceptional.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it goes to show that making a personal villain in a massive superhero sort of movie just makes them better. You know?
Mm-hmm.
You know, Thanos maybe didn't have his personal connection and he's one of the good villains, but the rest of them, you know, I think Marvel's not known for their great villains right now in the MCU. And because of that, I really hope that we get to see a bit more of Mysterio. I know that probably isn't going to happen.
Okay,
but
well, let's do you really think he's dead in that at the very end? Or do you think...
Yes, that's I'm not sure.
I think... I want to say he's really gone.
But I don't want him to be.
Really gone.
Yeah.
But
yeah, so the way that it's cut and everything, like, it was interesting to me that he was like, fine, I'll become a martyr, basically, at the end. He was like, oh, they'll see it in a different way. I didn't expect him to literally, like, intentionally give up his own life for it. Right. Because obviously he had a plan for it to happen. Like, he had his, I don't know what the dude's name was, the bald glasses dude. But, like, he was the one who disseminated it. It seemed like that was Mysterio's plan, you know? It didn't seem like that was some friend trying to like avenge him.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I'm pretty sure he planned that. And before that's the post-credit scene that we will talk to. Before we get to that, I just want to give a quick shout out to Michael Giacchino and his score in this one. I really dig his music. I like it better than the Homecoming suit. And funnily, if you check Spotify or YouTube or whatever, Michael Giacchino is known for making the title of the songs in his scores and soundtracks very like pun related.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so this one is Spider-Man Far From Home, Sweet Home. Like Spider-Man Sweet, but Sweet Home.
Yeah, that's so dumb. It's like Homecoming, Sweet Homecoming.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't listened to the score yet, but it was, I mean, in the movie it was great.
The movie was great. And is there anything else we want to talk about before we jump into the post-credit scene? Is there anything that you think we missed out?
I mean, the Aunt May Happy Hogan thing, don't know how I feel about that.
They had a talk at the very end as well.
Yeah. But I guess that's probably it. I don't know. Like, I don't know if I love that, but I love the rest of it. Maybe it's just because I love Marissa Tomei. It's weird that Aunt May is so attractive in this universe. Like she's like the
who doesn't want
40-year-old
to
Aunt.
date? Who doesn't want to date Marisa Tomei? So I don't blame Happy Hogan right there.
Yeah,
And
I don't blame Happy either.
But yeah, I do like that Happy as a character. I think I've said this, but he's grown into more like an uncle figure in this film.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he was really much of a douchebag in the previous film, sort of. Didn't
Right.
really care about.
Yeah, in Homecoming, he was kind of an asshole. Yeah.
Doesn't really care, but yeah, we really see the growth in this one.
Yeah.
And
yeah, definitely.
I just thought of something. We didn't even touch about Cody Smulders, Maria Hills, and Nick Fury. They were okay in this film, and throughout the whole film, I actually, before the reveal at the very end, I did notice, like, especially in the very ending, Tony, this Nick Fury doesn't seem right. It doesn't.
They had a different dynamic. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, sort of at odd, and when they reveal at the very end, I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, Hill corrects him at a certain point. Like she is kind of insubordinate. The thing that threw me off when Spider-Man's asking about the random Avengers, he's like Doctor Strange, blah blah blah. He says Captain Marvel, and Fury's like, don't invoke her name. And I was like, oh, are they trying to act like Fury is just like a fangirl of Captain Marvel or something now? And so once I saw an end credit scene, I was like,
right.
Okay, that makes sense.
I haven't even tied back to that moment after seeing the film. Probably in the rewatch, I realized that.
Yeah.
Let's jump into the post-credit scene, the very first one, and we saw the first post-credit scene is pretty much. I feel like it's the ending of the film, but they cut it with a mid-credit kind of thing.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the ending after MJ and Spider-Man swing, and then MJ is literally screaming.
Yeah.
And when she landed, and then boom, you see in the screen dailybugle.net, which is smart because nowadays who reads newspaper? It's a web broadcast like this one, so it makes sense. And then guess who it is? You want to say it? You want to say the reveal?
Dude,
I know you're a fan of
when I saw J.K. Simmons, I was like, oh, they're gonna do a J. Jonah Jameson thing. That's kind of cool. And then J.K. Simmons comes on screen. I was like, oh my god!
that is my biggest
I love him so much.
Dude,
sorry, I clipped. I'm sure.
The biggest reaction for me is also that very scene. I'm like, oh my god, J.K. Simmons is back.
Dude, he went from Marvel to DC, back to Marvel. The man can do no wrong in my eyes after Whiplash. He plays the yellow M&M, and then he plays Fletcher in Whiplash, and now he's back to J. Jonah Jameson. The dude is incredible. I hope he's a legitimate role in the next film. I hope he's not just a background actor.
I feel like you sort of have to, especially with the fact that what he's doing is he reveals the clip, and definitely that's a altered clip. I'm pretty sure that's his friends once again editing it, showing that Peter Parker.
Yeah, because you see the friend get the download.
Yeah, and Peter Parker is the one who executed the drone and destruction and everything, and he him out as Spider-Man as Peter Parker, and that is huge. We've never seen that in a Spider-Man film yet, and and for MCU, and I believe also in the comics, we haven't seen as many iterations of Peter Parker exposed.
We've seen a few, and every time it happens, it never goes well.
It's almost
it ruins it, basically.
And they always sort of, not really retcon, I guess, to basically make people sort of either forget, either deal with the devil or whatever, lots of complex stuff, which makes his identity back. And also for the MCU, I feel like every other hero have their identity exposed except for Peter, except for Spider-Man, and maybe
because he's a teenager.
Yeah, and that's going to be whatever the sequel is going to be, and I'm doubting it's going to be a high school thing. They cannot do a high school thing. It's going to be 3 years ahead. The next film probably in 3 years or something.
Yeah, I believe that.
The repercussions of that exposed, that's going to be exciting to see.
I mean, that's the thing. I don't know how you make another movie in the MCU without addressing it. It's so big. Revealing his identity to the world. That's just the idea of bringing up the name. Even if people are like, oh, it's probably not him, there's going to be 10-20% of New York City who firmly believes or knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man from now on. Because once the name is said, you can't take it back, you know?
Yeah, not only that, he out him out that Peter is like a villain. So people will be chasing after him, chasing after Peter, not just chasing after him as a hero, but chasing him as a villain. It's going to be in the watch list.
So that's what I was thinking about. It's the perfect setup for J. Jonah Jameson praising the villain. Praising the villain and making Spider-Man the Menace. Oh my god, so good. Like that he's like, Mysterio will go down in history as one of the greatest heroes of all time. It's like, that's such a perfect line for him. Yeah, but I'm curious if there's like, they try to play to any element of people being like, oh, it was like faked footage, or if, like, I can't see everybody turning against the person who just helped save the world, you know? So maybe Jonah Jameson's just gonna be crazy, but I think the much bigger consequence is that people know it's Peter, whether or not they think he's a villain. Right. And I think that makes every villain who comes at him from now on, it's going to be weird because they're not going to have a grudge against him necessarily. It's just going to be, oh, they just already know as they become his villain.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's a huge contrast to Homecoming, because in Homecoming, the end credit scene is Vulture protecting Peter's identity from Scorpion.
That's true. Oh, now everyone knows. Holy cow.
There's just like a major contrast. It's really interesting.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be exciting. Whatever the cause is. And I was watching several reviews on YouTube right after I saw the movie, and I saw someone commented out, in order, like, an easy way to solve the problem, which I don't know if it's easy, but they say like, oh, relating to the second post-credit scene, the Skrulls, have one of the Skrulls pretend to be Peter Parker whilst the real Spider-Man is there, and that way they will address the fact that it's not Peter Parker.
Yeah, actually, that'd be dope. That could work.
That could work. And
absolutely, that could.
And let's address the second post-credit scene at the very end. Boom! Reveal that it was Talos and his wife. I forget the name of his wife. And
it's actually like Ben Mendelsohn.
Exactly, Ben Mendelsohn is back, and wow, that was unexpected at all. So that was so good.
I watched some like fringe theory stuff, and I had seen a theory about that. They're like, oh, Nick Fury's a Skrull. I'm like, that was one of the ones that I just immediately discarded. I'm like, no, he's not. Like, that's a stupid theory. And then I saw that, I was like, like, oh, okay, I guess they're just bringing Skrulls into like random like different heroes' stories now.
Well, not only that, that means that the Skrulls is definitely still around since the last decade or so, since the 90s.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely, if they want to do Secret Invasion, once again, people's been saying after Captain Marvel, they're like, oh, so the Skrulls are a good guy, you cannot really do Secret Invasion. And I was the one to argue, like, they can still sort of do it. And now I feel like it's more likely for them to do that, especially with the Skrulls being around for so long.
Absolutely. I think that's going to be one of the most interesting things is, I think, so at the end of Phase 1, in Avengers, they introduced Thanos, right? This is the end of Phase 3. Right. So, hypothetically, I was expecting them to set up the next big threat. I thought it was going to be some multiverse reveal, which I did realize, I'm like, if they do a multiverse thing, they have to, obviously they're going to try to find Tony, so I don't think they're ever going to do that, because they can't get Robert Downey Jr. back. But then I was like, okay, then they're going to set up the next big villain. I think it's really telling that they're introducing the Skrulls, because we met the good ones in Captain Marvel, right? There could be bad Skrulls.
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. And it could be like a political sort of situation where like Talos is like the good guy and he's like defeated like to become leader of the Skrulls or whatever. I think there's so many possibilities they can do with this. And I'm excited.
And the fact that they reveal that Nick Fury is just relaxing in front of a very fake and computer animated beach, and it's like it's looking. Yeah,
it looks like a really bad green screen, and then it comes around, and you're like, oh, it actually is fake.
Where's my shoe? And it's walking around, and boom! I'm guessing that's in space. I don't know exactly where.
Has to be. Right. And that was my question. I'm like, why is he so far out? Why is he here?
And my question is, how long has he been there? How long has the Talos been Nick Fury?
That's my question. I want to play it safe and just assume it's like for the length of this film.
Right.
Like after he gets unblipped or whatever, after Endgame, maybe like he's like, all right, I got to go on a vacation. I personally would assume that he's been in position for most of it, but
yeah, they would make quite a lot. Or I don't know. Would it make sense if it was Talos in the funeral?
I could see, honestly, there's a range of possibilities, and I have no idea. Because I think it's ridiculous that they revealed that at all. So I'm like, I kind of don't trust my own internal compass on it.
Yeah, however they decided to reveal it, if they reveal it that it dates back to the time in Winter Soldier when Nick Fury decided to run away, that will be astonishing if that's been that long.
That's actually what the theory that I watched said. It was like, oh, this is totally when it happens, when the switch changes. And I was like, all right, whatever you say, man. Yeah. Oh, man. I mean,
possibilities.
It's it was a great final film of Phase 3. It's a great follow-up to Endgame. It's not perfect, because no film is perfect, but this is, right. I mean, honestly, it's one of my, easily, look, nothing's probably ever going to top Into the Spider-Verse, but I think it's maybe number 2.
I feel like, yeah, it's early once again for me too, but I think I like it more than Homecoming. Just because
I guess I am pretty iffy between that.
Yeah, just because of the fact, well, first, the style of it is more exciting for me. It feels more fun, and at the same time, it feels more relatable. So that's why I think I sort of like it more than Homecoming, for me at least.
Yeah.
For now.
I probably, I mean, I love Homecoming, and so I might come around, because I do tend to love the more contained stories.
Right.
But I mean, honestly, I think Gyllenhaal's performance could be the thing that pushes this up to my number 2 Spider-Man film. I think it's the best Spider-Man villain we've seen, both comic accurate and in implementation in a live universe.
Yeah, I guess so. I would still say Michael Keaton's Vulture is still one of my favorites, but yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. I love Keaton, but Mysterio is great.
So good, and they make the fishbowl look good. And
they did. It didn't look ridiculous.
All right. So if I were to ask you to score this movie out of a 10, how much would you give a score to it?
Oh man, I suck at this. I mean, if you look at my letterbox, I just don't rate anything. But
right.
I don't know. Like 8 out of 10 probably, which is high praise for me. I don't rate a lot of stuff super high, so I enjoyed it quite a bit. You know.
Okay, yeah, as I said, my non-spoiler, I rate it around an 8.7, which is still quite high too. And once again, it's still very recent, so I could change. I have the right to change my opinions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, every time you come out of a film, you're so much more hype. Yeah,
exactly. But yeah, I do enjoy this film a lot. It's fun, relatable. Music is great. Visual styles are great. So yeah, that is. I feel like that's it. Is there anything else you want to address about the film?
Man. I'm so happy J.K. Simmons is back, baby.
Yeah, gonna be definitely a big part for the next phase of the MCU, whatever it is. And yeah, that is the end for this spoiler review for Spider-Man Far From Home, whatever the third Spider-Man gonna be, Spider-Man Home Alone or whatever, I don't know, something to do with home again. But whatever it will be. So Andrew, thank you for coming in this spoiler review. What are some social media sites that you want to plug, or your letterbox or whatever? Feel free to shout it out right here.
Sure. I'm Ender Just on Twitter. ENDER. It's a stupid play on Ender's Game.
Right.
Cool, man. Thanks.
Go follow Andrew on Twitter.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, man. I'm just happy to talk about Spider-Man with somebody.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Always. And if there's other movie stuff that you want, just let me know. We'll shoot the video, easy, fun. You'll enjoy it. And yeah, you can follow me on social media at Wiradharma, Twitter and Instagram. And also, guys, check out the Councilmen podcast. That's my podcast between me and my high school best friends. And this last episode, we discussed some of the best movies of 2019. We preview Spider-Man Far From Home, and we also do a tournament bracket game of superhero movies. That was a lot of fun, so give it a listen if you want to watch it on my channel at Joe Movies, or if not, at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the podcasting platforms. Feel free to check it out. It's all available there. So, yeah. Andrew, you want to say anything else before we leave and end this video?
No, man. If J.K. Simmons or Zendaya, if you're watching this, hit me up.
There you go. Hit him up, guys. And yeah, so until next time, guys, we are out.
Peace, baby.